Hey, I'm Spencer with Energeticcity.ca, and this is the Community Roundup, which is sponsored by Brad's Furniture and Appliances. And today I'm at the Treaty 8 Tribal Association, joined by Connie Greyeyes and Alanna Moore, who are with the IRSSS. It's a very important day. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
It is. It's the day to remember and honor our many sisters across Turtle Island that are missing or have been murdered. And it's a beautiful day to gather together and share a meal and honor and remember our sisters that are missing or have been murdered.
Absolutely. There was a very influential speaker last night. You might have. I think I saw you there. Do you want to just kind of talk to me a little bit about kind of the key takeaways that you took away from the speech? I know that you kind of shared your thoughts on social media, but
Absolutely. I think that was an amazing keynote from Jody Wilson-Raybould. The thoughts and the words and the way that she expressed herself and to the audience was so important. My biggest takeaway was, the symbolism behind, Red Dress Day, Moose Hide Campaign, Orange Shirt Day, that all of those are really creative and important ways to symbolize those different issues that we face. But the biggest takeaway was that it just can't be that. It has to be more. While it's a good conversation starter as to somebody going, hey, why are you wearing that? That's that opportunity of learning and teaching that is so important, and that's really what we're looking for when we're thinking about truth and reconciliation. And that reconciliation part is that it can't be a checky box, or it can't just be that you're wearing a pin. Learn about it, know about it, and then you'll grow as a person when you do.
absolutely, it needs to kind of be followed up with education afterward. I can't just throw this pin on and be like, reconciliation happened, guys.
Off, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I think it was an important audience that needed to hear that. It was a lot of influential people there, companies, oil and gas, nations, and I think that it was well received. She's amazing at the way that she speaks and the way that she conveys her message, and it was a privilege to be there. It's a privilege to have met her, and it was a real honor to hear her speak her truth last night. When we organized today, it was about bringing people together and having these conversations. I mean, you can look in the room here, and they're having those good conversations. And that's the way that we carry on with our women that are missing or have been murdered. We gather together, we share a meal, and I thought that today, along with my beautiful coworker Alanna, that we would take this opportunity to share what the Indian Residential School Survivors Society has to offer. We're specifically missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls coordinators, and that's our part in this whole thing, is bringing that culture and those traditions to the people, and helping in that way. We thought about doing a walk. The beautiful Mindy Henyu from SurePoint is doing a walk today at 3:30, starting at Kin Park, and I really appreciate that. And that's what today's all about. It's open to anybody that wants to stop in and maybe register for one of our free workshops. We're doing the red dress pins. We're doing jingle dresses. We're doing ribbon shirts and skirts, as well as drum making, and those workshops that we have to offer for community members and families are all free of charge. And I think that's really a beautiful way to take that barrier down financially for people that want to partake in something like that. So.
Absolutely, and it's a really good way to, like you say, action. That's the first step to kind of educating. That again, it doesn't stop once you learn how to make a red dress pin or anything like that. You still got to keep going. It's going to be a thing that people are going to have to do for a very long time, because you essentially have to question everything that you were kind of spoon-fed, growing up and stuff like that. Now, one thing that Jody said that has stuck with me that I've been thinking about the whole time is she had this really great term called Inbetweeners. I just kind of want to know your thoughts for members of the community, maybe people that aren't in our community that are watching this video, what's the best way for somebody to kind of be an in-betweener?
You know, I that's the first time I actually heard that term last night, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like my role. An in-betweener, being that person that makes those connections for somebody that might not know where or who to reach out to. I'm often called upon as an Indigenous woman to explain things or come and have conversations with offices and businesses and industry, and being that in-betweener of directing and leading somebody down the path of truth, I guess, of about what Indigenous people's lives are actually like in Canada. And when she said that, I was like, there's a lot of in-betweeners in here, because, there's a lot of people out here that have done this work for so long, who are advocates and have spent half of their lives trying to educate. We have one sitting over here, Mindy, my good friend Holly here. She's like a sister to me, that, we do our best to bridge that gap, and creating new relationships with different organizations, and making those connections. Like if somebody calls and says, "Hey, I want somebody to come and speak about this," that in between is like, I know exactly the person that would be perfect for that. Here they are, And I thought it was just a beautiful way she explained that last night, about being an in betweener. You know, there's another part to that, is that it's so important not to be that person that sits on the sidelines. So many people, with everything that's been going on in the media, are like, well, you know what, it's I don't really want to say anything. And the time for silence against racism and against discrimination are over. It's now time to speak your truth and to stand up for what's right. And the National Day for Awareness of Missing and Murdered Women and Girls, Red Dress Day, is the perfect opportunity for people to learn, to gain some understanding, and start to stand up for the atrocities that occur and have occurred to Indigenous women and girls, as well as men in this country. I'm always so grateful for the people that show up, and whether it's 5 or whether it's 50 or whether it's 300, you have that opportunity to change the mindset of just those people that come. And that's why I'm always so grateful when people show up, like me and Alanna were like, I wonder if anybody's going to show up. And you know what? They always do. And I appreciate it.
What's a really good way for residents to be kind of a safe space for Indigenous women? I know that a statistic that was brought to my attention this morning was that Indigenous women are 7 times more likely to either go missing or become murdered. Is there a way that community members can make sure that they support the Indigenous women and Indigenous people in their lives?
I think that the biggest way, and probably the one that most people experience the most, would be just your random uptown, even in between conversations that people have. And if you hear somebody saying something about Indigenous people or Indigenous women and girls, stop them, correct them, because that mindset and that gross conversation that happens is what leads to us being more vulnerable to go missing or murdered. Um, you know, be that person that if you see somebody laying on the ground intoxicated or what have you, be the person that picks up the phone and makes a call for them. Don't be the person that takes a picture of them and posts it on social media. Those days are over, and if you do that, you're going to get persecuted on social media, as you should be. So if you want to make those changes, it involves actually being part of the solution, being part of making sure that that person's okay. There was a post on social media a while back, and it was of a lady in the bank. Her pants were starting to be rolled down, and she posted it on Facebook. And, there was just comments ridiculing this person, and I was the only person that said, this is messed up. Like, instead of calling the police or calling an ambulance to make sure that they're okay. You chose to ridicule them. And that says a lot about who you are as a person. And then, of course, I was blocked and deleted, but whatever. That made me happy. But you
Social
know,
media.
it's those kinds of things that are the norm, and that people think it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm guilty of seeing, like, you know, somebody drunk on Facebook, like doing something funny and you know, and laughing. And then I think, man, you know what? I'm so glad that they didn't have social media when I was an addict, because there would be some pretty horrendous videos of myself. I know that, you know, and it's just really about trying to be a more empathetic and kind person.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Another thing that I've been thinking about a lot from Jodie's speech is she mentioned that this kind of work and having to step up and speak out for what's right, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And, you know, I was wondering if you could maybe just touch on that a little bit, and, you know, if you know that, you know, kind of how to tell that you're on the right path, but also how to, for people that aren't used to sitting with feeling uncomfortable, kind of learning how to sit with that. And Lana, feel free to chime in if you want to.
I'm doing that right now.
You're doing great.
I think it's important to sit with those feelings anyways. I feel like we have to be able to feel uncomfortable to be able to understand how other people have felt in these situations and in the past. And I mean, for me personally, and I like working with Connie, I'm learning a lot, and it's uncomfortable, like coming in and doing all this stuff and not knowing what I'm doing. But I'm doing it because it's important and it's essential, and I feel like that's all I have right now.
You know, I think that when you have that uncomfortable feeling where you're in that situation, that's how Indigenous people have felt in this country for decades. Since first contact, that uncomfortable sitting where you're not really welcome, but kind of are because you're here. You know, if you're sitting at a table and somebody says something and it makes you feel off, or it makes you feel that uncomfortableness, that's because it's going against something that you know, that you don't believe. And if more people just stand up to that and say, hey, you know what, that's not cool. You don't talk about people like that. You don't talk about women like that. That if we have more people that stand up and do that, the less acceptable it is. You know, right now, the tide is changing. It's shifting where Indigenous people are now taking the driver's seat. You know, it's like, no, you know what, those days are over where you're going to talk about us. You're going to talk with us now. And it's important for non-Indigenous people to call out those behaviors, to be an ally. And I hate using that word, but I'm going to use it because that's the simplest way to put it. That if you truly are, then you're going to call out those behaviors. You're going to tell that person that is nonsense and it's not acceptable. Who you allow into your circle says a lot about you. And if you allow those people that have those thought processes about women and girls and Indigenous people and people of color, that says a lot about you. And, you know, I make a real effort to not have that in my life. I have to remove people from social media all the time because I don't want to see it. It's not what I believe in. So you know what? The time is now. Pick a side. What side are you going to be on? You know, are you going to be on the side where all people are treated equally with and have value? Or are you going to be the one that's going to sit on the sidelines and go, well, you know what, I don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation. It's essential to have that conversation so that you can grow as a person. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's the only way that we're going to be able to live in this world together, is when we start to realize that, you know what, nobody is better than the other. You know, we're all the same. And it's just important that we start moving in that direction.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for inviting me into this space.
Absolutely.
Love to be here, Alanna. It was nice meeting you, and sorry I roasted you a little bit, but it's fine. It was. Yeah, no, you'll get me back for sure.
There's soup and bannock down here.
There is.
There's some delicious soup and bannock made by Donna McCullum, the Bannock Shack.
Nice.
She's pretty awesome.
And that's going on until 4 p.m.
It's going on till 4.
And then the walk, if somebody wants to get involved.
3:30 at Kin Park. Mindy Henyu will be there with SurePoint. They're going to do a 5-kilometer walk, and walk in honor of those beautiful women and girls that are missing or have been found murdered.
Well, if you want to educate yourself, feel free to go down to the the library, the Fort St. John Public Library. They have set up a display, and that I don't know what that was, but it's a display and it has a bunch of informational resources and books, and you can be part of this conversation. You can educate yourself. It's more than putting a pin on. It's real work that needs to be done, and
Exactly. You know what? You've done that. You've come down here. You had your pin. You came down here. You've learned something, and not that you didn't before. I know. I've spoken with you many times, and I appreciate your support for a lot of the endeavors that we do as an Indigenous community, and that you can tell when somebody is like there for the right reasons, and I appreciate it. I just wanted you to know that.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, make sure that that you do some education, talk to an Indigenous person, and thank you so much for joining me.
You bet.
All right. Thanks, Alanna.